Hi, this is my policy analysis and plan for change. I'm Stephanie Felder, and I am a doctoral candidate at Cabrini University. My policy is the Tacony Academy Charter High School School Wellness Policy. Wellness is defined as the quality or state of being healthy in body and mind, especially as the result of deliberate effort. And in the context of schools, federal law mandates that schools have wellness policies if they are receiving any federal funds for meal programming, like the free lunch or free breakfast program. A school's wellness policy should work to provide a school environment that promotes and protects children's health, well-being, and their ability to learn. They do this by supporting their healthy eating habits and their physical activity. Some examples of that would be nutrition education, their physical education classes, and having requirements for these things. So in looking at the policy, one thing to note about the history of this policy that was enacted is that it is part of the Reauthorization Act of 2004, which required local educational agencies to establish wellness policies. Tacony Academy adopted a wellness policy on June 21st, 2017. Tacony's wellness policy has 4 parts, and those are the purpose of the policy, the authority of the policy, the delegation of responsibility, and the guidelines of the wellness policy. So the guidelines section is really what outlines the policy, and it outlines what it's doing for children. Within the guidelines, a school health council is established. And that school health council really is the guide for school-based, evidence-based strategies and techniques to establishing goals for nutrition education and promotion of physical activity and other school-based activities that promote student wellness as part of the policy development and revision process. Also, part of the School Health Council should be to ensure that this policy also impacts the staff. So some of the strengths of this policy is that Tacony has one. That's a strength in itself. A weakness, though, is that the policy is not widely disseminated, and therefore it has little impact in the area of nutrition education for students and staff. As a member of the faculty, I wasn't even aware that there was such a thing until probably a couple years ago. Some of the opportunities that this policy presents are that it gives an opportunity to strengthen and develop partnerships while creating a sustainable school garden, because there is no farm to school program, but having a farm to school program is a part of the guidelines for the wellness policy. There's also a lack of community buy-in from all stakeholders that could hinder the work of the school council, and that would be considered a threat. So, in my problem statement, there were 2 questions, and they come from the wellness policy assessment. And this assessment is really a part of what the school council will do and how they will assess whether or not the policy is being effective. So, 2 questions. First, does your school communicate its school or district health and safety policies in all of the following ways? So, what I found out is that although Tacony has all of these items, they have signs and staff member orientation and staff meetings and all of these things, the wellness policy is not at the forefront of any of these things. You really have to look for it, and I don't know that it's really put out there as something that we do. The second question is your school implementing any farm to school activities? And as I already mentioned, we are not. So in order to change this, there's a few things that we need to do. One, we need to have a communication plan in place. The school health council needs to develop a clear plan of action so that they can communicate what the wellness plan is, how it's being used in the school, and how it impacts the students, the staff, and families. We need to engage with our partners. We have some strong partnerships in the nutrition education field, one of those being Eat Right Philly. And then we need to also establish new partnerships with organizations like the Food Trust and Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. And all of this can be integrated within our social justice program and within our science classes. Any additional improvements will also be to include several teachers on the school health council. Right now, only one teacher and is on the school health council, and that's the gym teacher. So who is responsible for all of this? Ultimately, the CEO is responsible for the creation and implementation of the wellness policy with the board's approval. But the school health council is comprised of various stakeholders, including a board member, including a student, administration, the nurse, and all of these people, and it should also have a community member from outside of the school. All of these people are responsible for making sure this wellness policy is done with fidelity. So how are we going to get this done? So I created a logic model to kind of give a role of how this is going to roll out. So the school health council develops a communication plan, and throughout they will reach for the short-term outcomes, which would be to share the wellness plan in written communication directly to all stakeholders. And then in the long term, the school health council should really become a standing committee within the school community. For the development of the garden, the goal is to increase nutrition education in the fulfillment of the farm to school requirement. So some things that need to happen is that we need to create and develop and maintain a sustainable school garden, and that will enhance the school's nutrition education and social justice programs. So our long-term outcome would be that community members are able to further develop the garden and create their own recipes from items that are grown in the garden, not to mention be able to sustain the school's lunchroom with fresh herbs and vegetables, and even be able to have giveaways to the families in the school or even to the community if we were able to develop it to such a large scale in the long term. the timeline for this would be ongoing. So there's various things that need to happen at each stage of the timeline. And because we're talking about a garden, a lot of it is seasonal. So, some final points. Wellness policies are federally mandated. So, it's not something that a school can ignore, especially if they're getting federal funds. They should bring equity to the health and well-being of students and staff, but they have to be implemented with fidelity. Something to note is that students who are healthy physically and emotionally tend to have better attendance, be better students, and have higher achievement. For Tacony, they've ticked all the boxes, but there's room for them to grow. And growth will come in the form of higher engagement with the school health council from the students and staff, and the creation of the sustainable school garden. Thank you for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, my email is on the screen. Here are my references.